can you see this person's perspective,
Right.
but can you see beyond this barrier that is in front of you right now? And we do get to that place of gratitude and actually appreciation. Now, it takes us refusing to stay in a victim mindset in order to do that.
Welcome in, everybody.
Hello, hello.
I put sunflowers on our background now.
I see that.
I'm excited.
Because it's summertime.
And you can plant sunflowers now. It's the time to plant your sunflowers, and you still can do it. So
Nice.
let them reach to the sun. Let them reach to the sun. Teri Pugh, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
You know, I'm doing pretty good. And today I know that I threw a topic at you just now.
Literally just now.
But I have no doubt that you will have some words of wisdom because that's just how you roll. And our topic for today is when and how to step in when someone you love is in trouble. I would say this is for the people in Al-Anon and Codependence Anonymous. That know a lot of times when someone you love is in trouble can bring us into trying to help them, but it can snare us and pull us down into the mire real quick if we don't know how to set our boundaries. But there's a way to help in a healthy way, isn't it? Isn't there?
Yeah, the first thing is getting clear with where you are and what your need or your desire to help is. Is it because there's a true desire to help, or is it because you need to be appreciated for what you're helping or how you're helping?
All right. That's one of those things that's like, okay, examine your own motives. Examine your own motives. That's how we get started. We got a lot of people who jumped on here right on the get. Angie is with us. Hello, Angie. Elizabeth is here. It's like, yes, Elizabeth. Ooh, good topic. It's one. It hits us all. Is it help or ego?
Right.
It's really, really good. And there's my cousin, Timothy. How are you doing, Tim Free? Good to see you. Well, now we're going to talk about how to help and when to step away too, and when is too much help. And sometimes people get really dependent on us. Maybe their dependence gets transferred to us.
Yes, sometimes people's dependence gets transferred to us, and sometimes people have a need to caretake and busy themselves with trying to fix other people rather than looking at their own things that they could be working on. Now there's a lot of different avenues here. You know, you could be trying to help someone out who needs help budgeting, and maybe they're not fiscally responsible, so you're trying to guide them in that. It could be someone with addiction issues, and it doesn't have to be just substance issues. It can be, you know, they're a collector of all things, or they may have substance issues, or they are I don't know what all the things could be. So but just being clear, first off, does that person want help, or are you needing to help them because it'll make you feel better? Because sometimes people have their own process, and it might not be in alignment with what we want for them. But it's where they are, and it's where they need to be in order to learn whatever it is they're trying to learn.
Mona is with us too. Hey, Mona. And Angie says, I found you can't help those who don't want help. Now that's true. One of the things that I have found as a way to help those who, there are a lot of people who say, Corinne says, I'm not staying on long. I need a nap. Good
for you for taking that nap.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Sometimes I always say hungry, angry, lonely, or tired will make us do things that we don't. And that spells out halt. And I always find that's a good rule of thumb. I learned that in one of the groups that I was sitting in, and I said, oh, I'm going to remember halt. Hungry, angry, lonely, tired. and find out if that's the way I'm responding. But when people need help, whether it's ours or somebody else's, I think the first thing that we can do for them is to literally, okay, I'm going to pray about this. I'm going to put this in the thing of, do I need to step in? Or is it something that I can help them in just by saying, I'm here. I'm here. You're really good at that, Teri. Um, just letting you know I'm here. It's like when you're helping people through grief, you can't really say something that's going to alleviate a grief.
There's nothing that anyone can say that will reconcile what the heart and the mind are wrestling with during grief. There's nothing we can say. I'm sorry. We can say I'm praying for you. We can say all the pleasantries, but there's nothing that you can say to someone that's grieving that will take away the pain, the confusion, the sometimes the sadness, the anger, the numbness. So
Mm-hmm.
being there, I'm here,
Mm-hmm.
um, is beneficial. It helps people sometimes, and sometimes people don't want anyone around, but knowing that someone is around, in the event that they do, is helpful. You know.
Tim just said, this is a subject close to my heart. I have a piano lesson about to start, but I'll come back and watch this in its entirety. Love you. And I love you too, Tim. And the beauty of this show is that you can come back and watch it. Um, being there for someone, just letting them know you're there is a lot. Joyce just joined us. Speaking of being there, there's Joyce. My question is for a lot of the parents out there. You know what you know, what you know when you have shared a heartbeat with your child. They need help. You know when they're going into I call it the downward spiral. How do you reach in and help your child? You're a mom, and you know about being a mom, and there's a thing that you can tell when your kid needs something.
Well, there are plenty of ways that people can reach in and help someone or support someone, but you also have to know when it's outside of your scope. I see a lot of people and work with a lot of parents who have children, grown adult children, who have addiction issues. And they are
Mm-hmm.
hell bent on, I'm going to find a way. Well, it's outside of their scope. So, really, all they're going to do is push their child away
Mm-hmm.
because their need to fix something that they don't have the tools to fix is the equivalent of me saying, hey, I think I'm going to go change a motor in a car, and for clarities, I don't know how to do that, and I don't have an interest to learn. But if we're using that as an analogy and all I take with me is chopsticks and duct tape, like I don't have the tools to do it, so I'm going to likely make the issue worse than helping it. So and also knowing the repetitive nature of things. If you're working with someone who you have someone, a family, a friend, or, family member, a friend that says, I just need help. I just need help. And you support them through that. And then it's, I just need help. I just need help. And you support them through that. At some point you have to ask them, what are you doing to help yourself in this? And that's some tough love. That's
Mm-hmm.
challenging, but you also have to be sensitive about where that person is mentally, emotionally, spiritually. You can't just
Right.
hardball people, but you also have to sometimes step into that courageous place of um, encouraging people. I started to say forcing people, but that's not the correct word.
Mm-hmm.
Encouraging people to be accountable
Mm-hmm.
and to follow through. I have a client that I was working with at one point, and of course, and confidentially, I'm not going to give details or names, but um, the question came down to, we have three options here. You can do this, you and I can do this together, or I can call for a well check. Don't I don't want to have to call for a well check. But if you leave me no option, I will. And so they agreed that together they could problem solve and we could do something else. And so we were able to do that. But I've
Wow.
put myself in that position, as anyone would, that you have to sometimes make a hard call. And
Whew.
we don't want to have to do that, because we know
But putting it
that
in a choice, and putting it in a choice situation, this, or this.
which would you prefer? I mean, my daughter's 30 years old, and she could give you which would you prefer examples, because as she grew up, it was, green beans or broccoli. Which would you prefer? I don't want either one. Well, we're going to take one of them. Which would you prefer? So you're not, you are guiding someone towards a decision, but you're letting them ultimately make that decision. And when you're talking about stepping in and helping someone, sometimes that decision to step in and help them is one that is going to piss them off, especially if you're dealing with addiction. It's going to make them mad. But you also have to be able to step in to make a call, and then to step away and let the people who are professionals handle that, if that's the situation you're dealing with.
Corinne says it's harder than hell when a grown child is in crisis and there's nothing I can do to help but pray. And prayer is important, because that is the thing that we can do that connects us to something bigger than us, that can really help in a multitude. That actually helps us too, because it takes out that worry place.
Well, it takes it out. It might take it out for the person praying, but it doesn't take it out for the person that's in crisis.
No, not at all. Elizabeth says, I found sometimes the best help is to say, no, I can't do that for you. Some things we need to learn on our own. That's another thing. That's if someone asks you for something and it's something you can't do.
Or something that you can do, but you're not comfortable doing.
Yeah, true. Joyce offers, our son was an addict that no matter how much treatment always went back to drugs. We had started sort of tough love, and then he overdosed and died. And we have some guilt from that, but they cause you to step back, and all you can do is pray for them. Wow, Joyce, first of all, I'm so sorry.
Absolutely.
That's just, that's the thing. I knew that this topic would have some hard issues. The TV shows that talk about interventions and stuff like that don't always, as much as they're dramatic on TV, and somehow they always work out in 30 minutes they work out, but that's not in real life. And an intervention doesn't always work, seldom works, as a matter of fact.
Well, I mean, I've worked with a lot of parents who have children who are actively addicted, and over the years, several of them have done everything they can do. And so the work that they do with me is preparing to get that call, because there's no way you can prepare for a call that says that your child is gone. But they've done literally everything they could do. And they have worried, they have prayed, they have gone into financial debt, they have done everything, and they have felt horrible about it. But sometimes preparing your heart for that next step that you don't have control over, it doesn't make it easier, but at least there's a blueprint for it.
Corinne said in her case, he did get help, is juggling multiple balls, but is moving forward. Oh, that's great news, Corinne. And prayer helps with our peace when we're trying to help someone through it, to stop. The main thing and the hard thing is being a parent of someone who is constantly putting themselves in a dangerous or a bad situation, is to fight the frustration, which turns to anger. And
that, and or being in a relationship, being married to someone who puts your marriage and your children into marriage in a situation where you're constantly living in a crisis. That changes the chemistry of the brain. It changes the way that we respond. It keeps us in a crisis mode. It keeps us
whew,
in fixing and trying to put out the fires. And then before you know it, the brain is always looking for the fire, and you're not really enjoying life. You're just going through the motions. And there are a lot of people out in our world today, I mean, everywhere, that is just going through the motions, not because they enjoy the struggle, but because they've lost their way and they're trying to just stay afloat.
who you said something that just lit up for me. The brain is always looking for the fire. Now, here's the other thing is that we become trauma addicts as well. Our brain, when we're trying to help people in trauma, for me, I'm going to tell you, I've sat in many rooms when I discovered that my issue was I'm addicted to the constant trying to fix and save someone from trauma. And I kept finding, I said, why is it always everyone in my life? And then I start going back to the origin of that and what is my part in this? And why is it that I consistently find people in trauma? And I go, oh, and some people call it a savior complex. Some people call it whatever. There are a lot of places where you need to do work on yourself to realize I'm not the fixer. I'm really not the fixer. That's not my job.
But that's the job that many people, especially if you come from adverse childhood experiences or you've had that modeled to you, many,
Mm-hmm.
many people, their their brain implicit. I just posted something on Instagram about this earlier this morning. Their brain implicitly learns to look for the problem, and the brain is trying to. Here's where it gets tricky. The brain is looking for, I'm trying to serve you and get the reward for you. But the reward is not a reward that we speak in terms of reward, meaning something pleasant or something good. If you have someone that's a heroin addict, the brain is cued to want the heroin. The reward is when the heroin enters the body. That is the reward. But that's not a healthy reward. That's not a sustainable reward. We have to look at our brains as programmable computers. That's what they are. Our
Wow.
mind is above our brain. Our mind is our higher self. Our brain is an organ just like our heart, liver, lungs.
Mm-hmm.
It is an organ that is fascinating, and um, it's our main motherboard, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
But it's programmed by the experiences that have imprinted us,
Right.
and that's how we learn. And the
Yeah.
only way we unlearn that is we don't unlearn it ever. That's the first, truth to that is we don't unlearn anything. We just learn healthier ways, and then the unhealthy ways are always going to be there. That's why somebody they can be sober living for years and years and years, and then there's a misstep and they find themselves in peril and they find themselves relapsing. That's because that old pathway is still there. They've been traveling a new pathway, but the old pathway is there, and it will forever call to us. And I don't mean in a haunting way, but that's the familiar. And so
Mm-hmm.
the brain is like, hey, we don't want to do this new thing because we remember we did this and it worked for us, but it didn't
Mm-hmm.
really work, you know.
That there was that brilliance coming through, and I literally I have a pad here to write these things down. We don't unlearn anything. We just learn healthier ways to do it, healthier
Mm-hmm.
ways to do things, and that is huge, huge, huge. Elizabeth says that's why we alcoholics cannot forget what it was like. Uh,
Absolutely.
we can retrain our brains. That's good. Y'all, I mean, this is the first time I've had this where I don't have time to even read through everything before I'm putting it up. There's so many long passages. because you guys keep on venting. That's what this show is for. Amen. Joyce says, as much as I love my husband of 40 years, his drinking is absolutely a big problem. I'm always trying to fix him. Unsure how to fix it. Okay, well, first, you didn't cause it. You can't cure it. Okay, Joyce, I'm going to tell you that right now. Sometimes I just think it's unfair that I live a straight life and no one has to worry about me but several relatives and him. I have to constantly be worrying. I try to pray it off, but getting to a breaking point sometimes. Oh, girl. I knew this was an important subject today. I kind of prayed about it, and I just felt this was like where we were. Elizabeth shares with Joyce, I'm so sorry, Joyce, it probably doesn't help much, but as a recovering alcoholic myself, I can tell you that we addicts do what we are going to do until we decide to change. This was not your fault.
Absolutely. And the other part of that, and this is that bitter pill that none of my clients like to hear. We have to ask ourselves, we have to be accountable for our role. And our role may not be encouraging someone to drink, but our role is we have to question why we are tolerating it, why we stay. And that's a hard one, especially when you have decades of marriage,
Elizabeth continues, we have difficulty letting people be in the so-called negative emotions, anger, grief, sadness. We have a societal need to fix. And yes, we do. Angie adds, you can have ones that also expect your help. Example, they do something they know they can't afford, then find themselves in a bind. Next thing you know, you're getting a call, text giving you a pity party. This happens many times, not just once.
And with that, I would say we learn to say, thank you, but no thank you. I did not get the invitation to that pity party, so I will not be joining you today.
Yeah.
Sometimes it is incredibly hard to not help someone. But one thing that I tell folks all the time is our need to rush in and fix something for someone takes away the experience and the opportunity for them to learn how to do it themselves. And if we do that for people all the time, I can assure you, if we do it for our children all the time, I can assure you that they will be in their 20s and 30s and 40s. And they can be adulting all day long, but they won't feel confident in what they're doing. They won't trust their decision-making abilities. And that is good, bad, and different. I mean, it's not that people do it on purpose. We generally try to help people out of the kindness because we do want them to be healthier, better, different, whatever, more responsible. But we do have to look at the reason why we're doing it, especially when we get to those times where we're like, I'm exhausted. I can't do this. I cannot do this again with this person.
Right.
Then you have to know that you have to take time for you in that. And I hear people say all the time, there's no time for me. I can't take time for me. If I do, everything falls apart. Well, sister, I'm here to tell you that sometimes shit needs to just fall apart. Because if you're not taking care of yourself and you're around a bunch of people that you love, but they might be buffoons at times, they're not going to know how to take care of you. And at the end of the day, the only person, just like the alcoholic at the end of the day, or the addict at the end of the day, whatever we're bonded with, if it's a substance or if it's fixing people, if our priority is to take care of our immediate need, whether that's a drug of choice or fixing somebody, and it's not to take care of our self, then that's cause for alarm, because that's not sustainable on the fixing front or the addict front.
Well, also there comes Corinne says nap time, increase my peace. See ya. Bye, Corinne.
There you go. Bye, Corinne.
Glad to have you. Well, first of all, there are a lot of, we get into the thing now. The last part of this is the secrets. We start building our defenses around secrets. If we live with an abusive person, but we keep their secret. We live with an alcoholic, but we keep their secret. We don't reach out to our friends because for fear of embarrassment or what they will find. When you are living with someone that is in trouble, when you have a child that is in trouble and you keep it a secret to protect your reputation, to look good in church, to look good in your neighborhood or in your social scene, those secrets are not the answer. But finding your support network, you need a group of people who understand you, what you're going through, and can actually be there to help you when you can't help the one you love.
Right. And I would also say this, I would have people challenge themselves. I know that the secrets can be pretty powerful, but I would have people challenge themselves to ask them, is the secret worth losing the life of that person or your own? Because secrets are damaging.
Yeah, they are.
They do not help anything. What I've got, I've had people say to me before, well, I want to tell you something, but you can't tell anybody else. Now, if I'm dealing with a client, there are certain limitations and rules and ethical things that if they tell me something, I do have to tell somebody else. But when someone comes to me and says, hey, I want to tell you something, but you can't tell anybody else, I tell them, you're not laying that load on me. Like, you're not gonna something, you're keeping it a secret, but it's too big for you to keep a secret. So now you want to share that secret and you want to lay that on me. I'm not keeping that secret for you. Like, I'm not taking that weight on. Mm-hmm. Now, if you want to talk about it and process it, great, we can do that. Mm-hmm. But if we start filling our pockets with secrets, at some point you're immobile. You can't move.
Ooh, that's powerful. Start filling our pockets with secrets. Pretty soon you're immobile. Joyce says the sad thing, lots of times he does not even remember the mental abuse he puts me through while he is intoxicated. That doesn't change until it changes, Joyce. Mm-hmm. And the thing about it, the only thing that we can do is find our way to serenity. Secrets are so devastating, Elizabeth says, and more often than not, when we tell a friend, we find out we are not terminally unique. And chances are, when you confess this secret to someone, they already knew. They were just waiting for you to say, number one, ask for help, confide, or to open up that there is a problem. Admitting that there's a problem is the first step, obviously, and we know that, but I think this is an important topic, and we opened it up, and I know it's too hard to handle in 30 minutes, and I know we've got a hard out today, but I just want to tell you that there are a lot of answers, and the first one begins by getting help. Getting help for you, not for the person who we think needs the help. Get help for us. And my first step was to call Teri, and I got into a 12-step fellowship that dealt with my issues to fix.
Right. And that's the thing. Sometimes you have someone in your life that has got an overt issue, right? Whether it's some sort of bonding that they have with a substance or with whatever it is, gambling, I don't care what it is, and you're living with this person. You're not there just to fix that person. If you find yourself in a relationship of any kind, with a child, with a partner, with a coworker, with whatever it is, and you're finding yourself stressed and taxed, there are supports, there are counselors, there are coaches, there are therapists, there are all sorts of folks that are out there that are support groups. Cost nothing. But to be able to put yourself in a position where you're getting the support you need, because if your cup is empty and you're trying to fill up somebody who keeps emptying your cup, that is a twisted and messed up situation, because you will unintentionally allow them to drag you down and destroy you.
It's almost like psychic vampires. They can suck into your life force, and until there's nothing left of you, it affects our health. It affects our appearance. It affects our work. It affects our lives every single day. But there is the first step in you taking care of you and getting with the group. And I will tell you right now, whether if it's Al-Anon, Adult Child of Alcoholics, um, there is Codependence Anonymous, CODA, all three of those. And then they have online groups that can always help you. And so I just want to put that out there. And I will say my best call I ever made was to Teri Pugh.
Well, I'm grateful every day that you made a call, that you just made a call. And, you know, whether it was to me or somebody else, you made a call to start taking care of what you couldn't take care of yourself. You allowed someone in to help you with that. And, you know, and like you said, whether that's, you know, the CODAs, the Al-Anons, whether it's bereavement groups for parents who have lost children, there are support systems out there. And sometimes that a basic support system is enough. And sometimes you have to dive a little deeper and start emptying those pockets. But I can tell you that while it's not always easy, it is worth it, because
Amen.
you're worth it. You know,
That's true.
we didn't make our way to this planet to wither and, you know, blow away. So you have to take care of yourself. Even if you love someone who can't take care of their self, stepping in and finding help for them. And if they don't want that help, then you have to acknowledge the fact that they're not ready and that you cannot do a darn thing about that, but take care of yourself.
Yeah, that's it. That is it. Well, Teri, I love you so much, and I thank you all for being here. We meet weekly in the noonish hour of on Wednesdays, and we have our 30 minutes, and Teri's going to take us home now.
I am. As always, I want to say thank you, each and every one of you, for joining us and choosing to spend your time, your energy, and your thoughts with us, because we so appreciate that. And we appreciate each of you. And until we see you next week, we want you to continue being mindful of ways that you can take care of yourself, even if you find yourself in a situation where you're exhausted from taking care of another's issues. And most importantly, increase the peace. And we'll see you next week.